Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode. I haven't showered in 2 days because we're currently living in a car and don't have anywhere to shower, so we keep buying like day passes for gyms because we also want to go to the gym. But we've spent so much money on gym day passes at this point that we think, why didn't we just buy a fucking gym membership? It would have literally been like 1/10 of the entire price and we would have been able to shower like 100 times more than we actually have. I also burnt my scalp and now it's really painful. But other than that, we're thriving with the van life thing. But it's nearly over. We're going home in like a week and a half or 2 weeks now. And what I'm really excited about is I get to go see my sister at the end of this trip because she lives in Auckland. And so we started in Auckland, then we did like the whole of New Zealand. And we're not done yet, but then at the end we're flying from Auckland, so I'm going to go see her again. And it got me thinking how much I harass this woman. My sister is 1 year older than me. She's 16 months older than me. So 1 year apart at school. And I keep seeing all those TikToks that are going around at the moment, like about older sisters. And it's like, it's so sad when you realize that your big sister didn't have a big sister of her own. And that literally shattered my heart into a million tiny little shitty pieces when I read it, because I was like, oh my God. Because I wouldn't even be a fully formed person, like, without my sister. Can you see Millie in the back drinking her fucking McDonald's? Which she wouldn't share with me. Apparently it's like raspberry Fanta. Didn't want any anyway. Fine. My sister literally formed me as a person. I remember right before I started school, because obviously I started a year after, sitting on my mum's bedroom floor. I think this is literally one of my first memories ever. We sat on my mum's bedroom floor and my sister was teaching me that at school you have to sit with your legs crossed. So she was teaching me how to do it and I remember finding it really funny. I was like, this feels really weird. And that was my first introduction to school. And then at school, we used to line up outside our classrooms before like lunch or break or whatever. And our classrooms faced opposite each other. The lower school had 4 rooms that were all right next to each other. So we would run out of line when we would see each other and start hugging. And then the teachers would have to draw us apart from each other and put us back in our own lines. And I thought that was so cute. And then our primary school also had this thing where when you hit year 3, you were in a different playground to the little kids because you were bigger and a bit rougher. So they divided the playgrounds into 2. Which meant there was 1 year where me and my sister weren't in the same playground at break. And I used to stand, they just drew a line in between the playgrounds. And I used to stand the whole break time at the line and call out for her. And she would come and then she would like run away with her friends and I would just stay there and call her name. And then she would come back and give me a hug. And then sometimes she'd spend the whole break at the line with her friends. And I thought it was cool because they were way older, obviously. But yeah, that was a whole year of life. She never didn't come to the line though. She's so cute. And even at school, like we've shared friends our whole lives, but that's always, well, no, we haven't shared friends our whole lives. There was a very long period where we didn't have any of the same friends, but she would always let me play. She would always let me hang out with them. She's literally never been mean to me a day in her life. Like, she's like slapped me a few times and like beat the shit out of me, but she's never been like mean to me. Because there's a difference. I was definitely the sibling with the knife, though. Don't know why I did that to her. She's such an innocent soul, but I actually remember one time I made her cry because I took it too far. We were in an apartment that is not our apartment. We were staying in the city and my mum had gone out to meet her friends. So it was just us. We were like 9 and 10, I think. And I like started fucking around with her and I got this like knife out of the kitchen drawer and like gave her this really demonic look. And then she was like, stop it. Like, it's not funny. Like, mum's not home. Like, you're scaring me. And then I started like moving towards her with the knife and she was like, stop. And then she started crying and I was like, I wasn't going to murder you. I always get a little bit offended when people take my murder jokes to heart because I'm like, did you really think that I was actually, like, what impression do I give you that, like, maybe chasing someone around with a knife is enough of an impression for them to think that you might kill them with that knife? But I don't know, I was still offended. Took it personally. Anyways, my sister's literally the best thing ever, and I've realised that I stalked her out to New Zealand. She flew out here to move, like, she's fully moved to this country, and then I flew out 3 weeks later, and then went straight to her house and was like, hey, where did you think you were going? I don't understand, because, you know, what the fuck? And then my full plan is to move back. Well, I'm not moving back anyway, I'm going home. And this year my goal is to get my own apartment because right now I'm living with my mum because I just finished uni in like July or some shit. So I've just moved home for the first time in 4 years. So I'm trying to get an apartment by like February or March in London, which is going to be expensive. So I don't know how I'm going to do it, but that's kind of my plan. And I was going to try and entice her to move back to England by getting a really cute dog. But my plans are, I'm just starting to see them fail because how the fuck am I going to have a dog? I can't have a dog. I mean, I can afford a dog, but I can't get a dog because I'm living in a small apartment and I work. So what the fuck is the dog gonna do? And I was thinking I would get a cat, but then I was like, well, I don't want to have like an indoor cat because I just feel like that's not right. But then can you have an outdoor cat in London? I don't think so. I don't know. Not in central London. Am I gonna live in central London? No, but I feel like any part of London you just can't have a cat. So then I was like, well, I'll get an old decrepit cat from the shelter because I really want one like that anyway. And then it can't go outside, like one that's like at the end of its life can't go outside. But then I was like, but then I'll just be heartbroken when it dies. And anyway, I don't think a shelter will give a cat to someone who lives in an apartment in London, no matter the circumstances of the cat. I feel like they'll just be like, no, you can't have it, and that's fair enough. So maybe I'll just get a mouse or something, because I used to have a mouse. He was called Lion. He was the best thing I've ever owned. I took him to uni for 2 entire years and kept him hidden away in my closet so that my flatmates didn't know about him, because they would have probably ratted me out to their landlord because we didn't really like each other. I was living with evil people. Anyways, maybe I'll just get another mouse. I don't want a mouse though. I want like something that can cuddle with me in bed. And also can't speak. That is an important requirement, because a lot of things can cuddle with me in bed, but I need one that can't talk specifically. So anyway, I love my sister. I love her so much. She also... No, maybe I can't say that. I probably can't say that. Yeah. Do you know what? I was looking at this thing on TikTok. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Why am I talking about TikTok? It's because I've literally spent the last 2 weeks rotting on my phone in the back of a van. Like, we came here, we were like, yeah, adventure. We failed to research this country before coming to it. Obviously, I'm in New Zealand. We just assumed, like, it's near Australia, it'll be hot. Why not? No. The climate here is worse than England. It's shitter and rainier and more grey than the UK. I think it rains 6 out of 7 days a week. Like, someone told me that as an actual fact. So we kind of packed like a bunch of bikinis and shorts, and we were like, yeah, we'll spend the whole time at the beach, blah, blah. It's it's literally pissed it down every day for the last 2 weeks, but that's okay. It's fine. We made a really good friend in Wellington, and we spent like every day of the week hanging out with her, and she might be the most wholesome person I've ever met. You know when you meet someone and they just like instantly make you a slightly less shit version of yourself, and you're like, oh god, because you just see them and their essence is so good and they're so pure, and you're just like, what am I doing? And then you very temporarily become a better person until you forget how alluring they were, and then you just go back to being your regular old gremlin self. I'm just about in the process of becoming my regular old gremlin self again. In fact, I think today was the day when I became shit again. But that's okay. It lasted for a solid, I would say, 17 hours after seeing her. So that was nice, but unfortunately not permanent. So I don't have many friends at home that actively make me a better person, I don't think. I'd say Millie sometimes makes me a better person, because she just like will be like, hey, did you know you're being a piece of shit? And I'll be like, oh, good point. And then I will stop doing that, and I do the same back to her. Although she doesn't listen, because she has this thing. I love that she can't hear me right now. I gave her my headphones so that she doesn't have to listen to the podcast, so I can dump shit on her and she's not going to know about it, because we literally filmed a podcast episode together, but I didn't focus the camera, so I didn't post it. But she was fighting back on me about this. Now listen to this, right? Listen to this. What do you guys think? Right. She keeps telling me that I'm making a mess of the bed. She's making a mess of the bed. Like, literally 3 seconds ago, I was laying on the bed that she had just placed the mattress neatly back on because we had cleaned the bed off. And the mattress then started to slide towards the door that was open, falling out the door, just a tiny bit. In the time that I had been laying on the bed, she had climbed out the van to a pee-pee, then climbed back in the van, subsequently getting mud, water on the mattress, and shifting the mattress out of its position. All I had done is lay on it. And she goes, oh, look what you've done, I just fixed that. You've already fucked it up. And I said, you have an accountability issue, my queen, because she has been telling me for the last few weeks that the mess is my fault, which it is. And the grime is my fault, which it is. And the disorganization is my fault, which it is. But that mattress was not my fault. And I love that she can't defend herself right now. Anyways, did I tell you guys about the man in the garage this morning? I don't think I did. Sorry. The fact that this microphone is moving around is gonna be absolutely horrible for the listener's ear, but there's so much traffic in the front of this car that if I wasn't using this right now, it would genuinely sound worse somehow. Anyway, this morning my car broke and I was like, fuck. So I sent a picture to my dad, who is not a mechanic, but he is an engineer, and I do trust him kind of, because every time I drive to his house, He comes outside, looks at my car and finds another thing wrong with it. So I just think he just knows. So I send him a picture of the thing that is falling off the bottom of my car and I say, what's this? He tells me what it is. He tells me how much repairing it is going to cost. And I go, right, fine. Go to a garage. I feel like you can have one of two experiences in this male-dominated room. And that is that they're either going to be like, oh, she doesn't know what the fuck she's on about. So we'll take care of her and we'll give her good service for a good price. Right? Or they're going to be like, she doesn't know what the fuck she's on about. So we're going to financially violate her. The first man did the latter, right? We walk in and I'm like, I've got a broken suspender thing. No, I did know the word this morning. It's the suspension thing. Anyway, I say that's broken. He takes a look at it. He tells me $500 big dollars to fix it. I said, I said, I've had this exact work done before for 200, so why is it going to be 500? And he looks at me and he says, that's my price. If you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. You're not going to get a different price. And I was like, the audacity. I don't know if I'm going to get a different price anywhere else. I've never had this issue before. I've never had this done, especially not for $200. But now that you've spoken to me like that, with the insinuated message of fuck off written on your forehead, I thought, fine, I will go somewhere else. He was a bit ballsy because he was literally on a street full of mechanics. Like, there's like 4 other mechanic shops on this street. So I'm thinking, do you not want money? Like, I don't understand. Anyways, because the thing is, I'm a foolable girl. Do you know what I mean? I'm foolable. Like, if he'd have then turned to me with the slightest bit of intelligence or wit and said, yeah, see, like, the part is 200, but we're going to have to put it on a hoist, and it's going to take a couple of hours and a couple of people, so $500, I would have gone, 100%, here's my card. Do you know what I mean? Do you want the 3 numbers on the back for personal use? I don't care. I would have given it to him. But then he was rude, so I thought, well, do you know what? Even if you are right, you can suck it. So I went to the garage down the road, and the nicest little old man was behind the counter. He comes out, he looks at the car, and he goes, oh yeah, that's $200, which is the exact price that my dad said it would be. He goes, that's $200, and it'll take me an hour. And I was like, it's not hard, is it? It's not hard. And that put me in a bad mood. Put me in a bad mood for about an hour. And then I went to the shop, and I bought yogurt, and I put granola in the yogurt, and I ate it, and it gave me a tummy ache. But that did cheer my mood up whilst it was processing itself in my mouth. It did. But I really do want a flat in London. I was thinking about it. And how cool is this? My therapist... Okay, I don't live in London. My family doesn't live in London. We live in the middle of nowhere. But my therapist was like, I can come to London for you. Like, I also work in London, and I can make an available appointment for you. So if you move, we can still work together. I love him. Genuinely in love with that man. He's fixed my brain in so many ways. Do you know what he said to me once? Actually, I feel like this is important. I meant to make a TikTok about this, and then I got too shy. But what he said, right, you know, people say, like, I feel like a massive traumatic thing happened to me as a child, but I just can't remember what it was. I saw someone stitch a video of someone saying that, and she was like, if your brain thought you were capable of handling the information, it would tell you, but it's not. It's hiding it from you, so, like, you can't handle knowing what it was. Your body's protecting you kind of thing. And I was like, that didn't sit well with me, because I thought, well, that's probably true for some people, and like everyone should look into their own things. Like, I'm not telling them what to do or how to feel, but or what happened to them. But like, I thought that's a bit harmful, to be honest, because I once went to the same therapist with the same complaint, and I was like, I feel like something really bad happened to me. I just have this feeling about it. I act like a traumatized person, and I'm not traumatized, or no massive thing happened to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's this one big trauma that I can't remember, and I act like someone who has had that kind of event, but I don't remember it, and it's pissing me off. Why can't I remember it? And then he was like, okay, he took the complaint on board, and then we had a bunch of sessions, and then he came back to me, and he was like, yeah, that thing you said about being traumatized and you can't remember it, and he was like, I don't think that's true. He was like, I think a lot of people, like, he was like, you're very sensitive, and it's not a bad thing, but you're very, like, emotionally intelligent, and you were as a child as well. You were very sensitive, but sensitive in the good way. Well, the only way is to be, like, good, I think. It's like, it's a very good thing, very perceptive, but he was like, I think what it meant was that you ended up perceiving very distressing situations as a child that people didn't even know you were perceiving. So something could have been traumatic to you that no one knew you were even aware was going on. Like, say your parents had a crisis going on in their lives that you shouldn't have been aware of because you were 4 years old or 5 years old and you weren't directly hearing them speak about it, so why would you know it was that sort of thing? But then some kids function a bit differently, and I think they pick up on like different energies, different vibes, different behaviors. If you're more perceptive to like subtleties and behaviors and stuff, which he was like, I think you are. I think you were picking up on things that really like got to you as a child, distressed you, and gradually over years that just continued for you. So you feel like there's one big trauma that you can't that you can't remember, but actually it was just kind of like one continual thing. And that's why you can't remember, because looking back, everything that ever happened to you was pretty docile, pretty tame, but it felt huge to you because you were so young and no one knew you were perceiving that. And I remember speaking to one of my friend's mums about this, because she had known me my whole life and she was always very honest with me. So I was like, I know she'll tell me what she thinks of this. And I was like, I just feel like I'm a problem. I feel like I have always been someone who has caused issues for my parents, always felt destructive. I felt like the problem child because my sister was so perfect and had no big blips in the road growing up. I was like, what was wrong with me? Do you think that my therapist is right when he's like saying that I was just sensitive? And she was like, yeah, you acted like a child who was responding to exactly what was in front of you. And that was the single most validating thing I have ever heard in my entire life, because then I could like relinquish all this guilt of like, I wasn't a terrible child, I wasn't hard to deal with, I was just reacting validly to everything I was seeing. And I was not I'm not a difficult person. And once you grow up and learn to harness your sensitivity and your perceptiveness and whatever the fuck is going on, it's such a strength and it's such an amazing thing. And it's the one thing that I value the absolute most about myself, but it's also the one thing that made me hate myself because I didn't understand it. I thought, very interesting. And especially, I think that's like important for people to hear with the sibling. If you have a sibling that is like just not stressed out by, like, me and my sister had the same upbringing, so why did one of us go crazy and the other one didn't? I'm not saying I went crazy, but like I definitely behaved like a person experiencing trauma for a large part of my life. It didn't make sense to me, so I was like, why? And they were like, well, some people just see things that other people don't, and it's not like a fault of you or the other person. It's just like, you think you're in the same room, but you're perceiving the room in completely different ways, and you're reacting to everything completely different, and you're feeling. So if you're in the same physical situation, but nothing else for you two is the same, and that was very helpful for me to hear. So I just thought maybe if you feel like there's a big trauma that can't remember, maybe it was just your entire life. You knew. Maybe that was just me. But anyways, I thought that was helpful. What else me and my therapist talking about? It's probably none of anybody's business. I once went to this therapist at university who was really shit, and I only stayed with him for like 5 weeks, I think. And I like to tell my friends what happens in therapy. I have like 2 friends that I would trust with that. I mean, I have like 2 friends generally, but those people I also trust with that information. And one of them I bother to tell because I think that she has helpful input and we think the same kind of ways, but she's probably a bit smarter than I am. So I tell her sometimes if she has space, I will indulge her. And I remember telling her something about this therapy session that I'd had. And then I told my therapist that I'd done that. And he was like, oh, I think you should just keep everything in this room between us because it kind of helps like make it a more secure environment. And I was like, that's really fucking weird. Never want to hear a therapist say that to me ever again in my entire life. I guess it depends on what you're talking about. But I was like, what? Which brings me on to my next subject, which I'm going to have to be quick because my camera is going to die. But healing is a communal thing. I think. Well, I know. It just is. Right? I feel like there's this whole thing online of like, cut people off that don't serve you. You are your most blah, blah, blah. And it's so true. Like, you're your most valuable friend and all of it's true. But I feel like people take it to the most insane extent. I remember I had this friend a while ago and she was going through an unimaginable shit time. Like, if I had gone through what she had gone through, I don't know if I'd be alive. I don't know. I would not be a sane person. Like, I can say that hands down, I would literally be completely impossible to exist around. So the fact that she wasn't like that is incredible, but a lot of people found her too much and too hard to be around and cut her off. And I've heard people talk immense amounts of shit about this girl, and it just made me think, like, and it's interesting because there was a period of time where I couldn't be around her either. And it's interesting because I've also had people turn their backs on me in my time of most need, and still to this day, like, I'm very aware of that. Like, there's people that I have just at arm's length permanently now because they weren't there for me, and I would never expect anyone to be like, I'm not fucking paying you. But I think it's interesting to see how many people have no interest in seeing healing as being communal and supporting people even when they are so unbearable to be around. Obviously, there's a difference between people who are, like, clearly not gonna try and clearly being intentionally harmful. Like, there's all those kinds of stuff going on. But, like, I think healing should be communal, and I think when people are going through something themselves, I had this massive thing when I was going through, like, my most intense, like, season of life, where I was like, I can't ask anyone really for, like, much help because this is such an intense thing that's happened to me, so I can't burden anyone with it because it's too intense and it's too much, and no one is paid to be here, so this is the kind of thing you pay people for, right? And I disagree now, but I think that there's only maybe one or two people that I would expect to really, really stand by me if that kind of thing were to happen again. I don't know, that's kind of fucked up actually. But I just think about it a lot because I have more perspective looking at someone else who was going through that same thing where not one person stood by her through it. And I just think that's fucking terrible because that makes me scared to ever have something like that happen in my life that I would have to heal from and think no one would be there. Because I've seen it happen to her and I saw it happen to me in a much less extreme way because I didn't have the same extremities occur. But I hate the way that healing has become so individual. I guess it's the same with motherhood because I was watching this thing and it was this mum being like, oh, we do like a food train when one of my girlfriends has a new baby, which I was hoping straight people call their female friends girlfriends, but that's for another fucking time. She was like, oh yeah, me and my girlfriends, we like, when a new one has a baby, we'll do like a meal a week, but there's like 5 of them. So then the new mum has like 4 or 5 homemade meals a week that she didn't make or some shit. And everyone was like, that is amazing. And I was like, that's why I'm not having a fucking baby. It is not meant to be on one woman's shoulders to raise a child. I swear, those little shits are meant to be raised by a village. And that is so scary. Not to mention anal tears. I'm never having kids. I do want kids. Probably just not my own ones. I would quite like to live my entire life before I welcome a vulnerable being into it. But also, I think if I ever did have kids, I would just adopt an older child when I am like 50 so that then we make up a bit of an age gap. Like, I won't die when they're super young. And I just feel like it's more valuable. And if you can build like kind of an empire around you of you are the main empire because you've been to therapy and you've done a lot of work and you're 50 and you've got a financial empire of your own and the correct community around you, and then you can take on a bigger load. I don't know, I feel like that's more my purpose than having a fucking baby. I am the least cut out person to mother a newborn or any kind of young child. That's not for me. That's not my calling personally. But we'll see. I don't know. I probably won't adopt either. I just don't really care. But I feel like it could be nice. That's kind of always been my intention. I feel like queer people are more likely to like have that intention because it's never been an option for me to really have a child, even though because I went through most of my life really only being interested in women, so I just thought, well, the chances of me marrying a man are so fucking slim, so then I just kind of cut pregnancy out of my like scope of possibility and was like, right, well, what are we gonna do? Became content with the idea of not having kids or having kids in some other kind of way. So even though now maybe, I don't know, God knows if I will end up with a man or a woman, I would quite like to end up alone. I will be so honest with you. I think I would live such a happy and fulfilled life alone with the right friends. I'm just never happier than when I have a good relationship with amazing women. Like, when I have my friends around me in the proper way. But then I like my friendships to be very low maintenance. Like, I don't want to text you every day. I don't want to be Snapchatting you. I don't want to be like, I don't know, like, I want to hear from you. And, like, I want to FaceTime for an hour when you have something to tell me. And then I want to have, like, dinner parties and, like, see you in a happy way. I don't know, like, I am solitude. I am really a woman who enjoys her own company, but, oh God, I don't know. I think I might just die alone. I think I'm going to die alone, and I think I'm going to be thrilled. I really wouldn't mind. As long as, like, my mum lives for as long as possible, I think I'll be happy. Like, as long as my mum doesn't fucking go anywhere in the next 30 years. My mum is 60, but I can't think about that for too long. So, I digress. I never know if you should say I digress before you make the point or after you make the point. Anyways, I'm going to have to go because my camera's going to die, and I've said, once again, nothing of any meaning on this entire podcast. But I'm really excited to get back to London. I'm really loving it in New Zealand, but I love London so much. I'm just a very much a home girl, and I'm excited to see my car, which has had some work on it since I left. And by work, I mean, I think she got new spark plugs because Miss Girl was making some noises that I didn't enjoy. And then I got this new balaclava that I'm going to wear when I'm home that I can't stop thinking about. It's green and it's like hairy. And then I got a blue scarf and a blue hat. And I'm going to go to Winter Wonderland. And I'm going to be happy. And it's going to be freezing fucking cold. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And now I'm going to go before this shit cuts me off. And I love you guys. And I hope you're having a good day. Because I am. Other than the rude man that I met this morning. I'm having a really good day. We had a really nice dinner. It was McDonald's. And I feel full and content. And it's raining and we're in the car. And I'm going to go crawl up next to this bitch that thinks I'm messier than I am. Which is shocking because I am very messy. But not as messy as she thinks I am. Maybe I am. Maybe it was me that moved the mattress. We'll never know. We'll never know. We might know. It was me. Bye.